This is the lazy dropping coins experiment, okay? Now, this is a very interesting experiment, really simple to use. Let me show you the bits and pieces. You can see them already. I'm using a glass. I don't want you using a glass. I'm only using a glass because I want you to see what's happening inside. What I'd rather you use, if you don't mind, is one of these plastic type cups. Don't be exactly like that one, but something made of plastic that's not breakable, okay? If you've got a nice big one, that's great. So you can use a big one if you want. And some people actually do have plastic see-through ones like this. Try and find something that's pretty rigid, so you're going to have to have a good grip of this in a minute. You've got to grip it firmly, so it's got to be pretty strong. Not a soft cup would be no good, okay? But some other cup, but definitely not glass. I'm using this mirror, okay? Because it was something I just had to hand now to show you this experiment. Remember, I like doing stuff with stuff lying around. I often do use actually cardboard. So instead of this, you probably haven't got one of these easily to hand, try a piece of cardboard. But make sure when you use a piece of cardboard, it's nice and smooth on one side, on the side that we're going to have on top, preferably on bottom as well. Usually card is smooth on both sides, but just check it. So make sure it's nice and smooth, and make sure it's not too bendy. This actually got a slight bend in it, but make sure your card is flat, and make sure it's strong enough to hold the weight of a few coins resting on it without bending it, okay? So card usually is absolutely fine. So this is what I want you to do. I want you to lay your card, if you're going to use card, like this. Now remember, I'm right-handed, so this is the way I'm going to do it. So I'm going to get my pile of coins and I'm going to lay them on top there, nice and neatly, and I'm going to check by looking at the side to make sure the coins are lined up over the top of the glass. And I'm just going to look in both directions because now that's right over the middle of the glass. I'm going to do it by holding it firmly with my left hand. So if you're right-handed like me, this is the way I recommend you do it. Hand on the table, rest your hand there. You might even want to get your arm right down. You want a good grip of this one. Flat hand, fast as you can, with hand back and whack the end of that piece of card in that direction. Obviously make sure there's nothing over there that you can fire it at. I want that totally safe as well, of course, so check the line of fire. Nobody over there, and nothing you can damage. Just whack it as hard as you can, okay, and see what happens to the coins. If you're left-handed, you'll probably want to do it the other way. You'll probably want to grip it with your right hand and whack it with your left hand. But I'll let you decide. You do what feels best for you, okay? So off you go. So, how did it work for you? Let's see how mine goes. Remember, I'm going to hold it in the way I suggested to you if you're right-handed like me. Okay, nice firm slap. Amazing. So, what's going on? Well, do you remember the name of this experiment, the lazy dropping coins? Why did I call it the lazy dropping coins? You've probably got a clue by doing the experiment. Any object, when we rest it down on a surface, okay, we've got several objects here, but those objects, once they're resting, they actually don't like to move. I'm not saying they think about it, of course, but they resist moving. We call it inertia, the ability or the amount that something resists changing the way it's doing anything, whether it's standing still or even moving, we call that inertia, okay? So, those coins have inertia, they don't like changing what they're doing. Right now, of course, they're still. If they were moving, they have inertia then too. When they're moving, they don't like changing the way they're moving. They'll actually prefer, given the choice, to keep going in a straight line forever. And you'll only change them by putting a brake on or knocking them sideways with another force. So let's come back to this experiment here. When we have it here, let's set it up again for you. When you have it like that, of course, those coins, I'm not touching them. And I've put them on a surface which is quite slippery. There will be friction there, but not very much. So there is a bit of gripping going on. That's what friction is, a gripping force, but not very much because it's a nice smooth surface. It's one of the reasons I chose to use this material, of course. And cardboard is much the same. When I whacked the edge of the mirror, or the plastic mirror that I'm using, of course, it finds it very difficult to resist this sort of continuous motion. So the mirror doesn't want to move either. But of course, I'm giving it a good strong shove and it moves very easily. But remember, the coins aren't actually attached to the mirror, they're just resting on it. and the friction isn't too much, and if I make it go really quick and move really quick away from the coins, there's not enough time for the coins to be dragged along with it because it's moving so fast. Let me do it again. And so they just slide, the piece of mirror that I'm using slides away from underneath. If we could see slow motion, the coins would be moving a tiny bit, but as they're being dragged by the mirror, but they don't have enough time to speed up to the same speed because the mirror's moving much too quickly, and they speed up a bit, but then they drop off. Remember, they're actually resisting the motion totally anyway, or trying to, I should say, and that's why they fall off. So, what other things could we change? Well, 5 coins. Of course, it's pretty obvious we've changed the amount of coins we use. For example, what about just 1? Do you think 1 is going to work? I have a few more here. We've got 10 coins here. Do you think 10 will work if you piled them on top and did exactly the same as best you can? Repeat it. Do you think there's a limit to how many coins? Let's assume that you could pile up a big pile. There's no reason you shouldn't try this one. Pile up a big pile and knock away and see how many you can get to fall down. Do you think there'll be a limit? What about the size of the coins? These are, as I say, British 2-penny pieces. What about if we tried different size coins? Would that make a difference? So in other words, here we have 5 of these 2-penny pieces. What about if we use 5 much smaller coins, or 5 bigger coins if you can find bigger coins? So there's a few variables there. What about the material? Of course, I've already mentioned this in passing, haven't I? I'm using this shiny mirror to do mine, and it's nice and smooth. Hopefully you didn't have any problem anyway with your card. But what about if you use a piece of material, say you're using your piece of card, but maybe you got something that stuck to it that was more rough. How about a bit of sandpaper that we used to make wood smooth with, or something like that, a bit of sandpaper. And in fact, the good thing about sandpaper is it comes in different roughnesses. You get very fine sandpaper, medium, really rough, and really, really rough. So you can try those and see if there's any difference in the roughness. Because of course that will affect the friction, won't it? Which would be interesting. What about the size and shape of the thing we're using? Do you think that makes a difference? The fact that, you know, I'm using about this size, about this shape. I wonder what would happen if we had something round or bigger. I'm sure you can think of a few more things you could try.